All right, let's get this.
Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Top of the morning. Top of the morning. Top of the morning. Let's get this shit. Let's get this shit. Let's get this shit.
Did you become Irish all of a sudden? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. Welcome.
Hi,
I am Cameron,
I'm Joshua.
and this is It's an Us Thing.
It's an us thing. It's just us guys.
Yeah. Wow. Welcome to another recording block with the boys.
Yes, this is the start.
So, first and foremost, how are you, Josh?
I am doing fantastic. I feel wonderful. How about you, Cameron?
I am dandy. We've been doing some pre-recording for all the listeners at home. So we have already been vibing out for a little bit, but this may be the first that you hear of us today.
Maybe we'll see. But yes, we had some great conversation, doing some great work behind the scenes. You know, just again being pretty productive so far.
Yeah, we're trying to get a decent back catalog going because we want to, in the near future, have some fun exclusive content going on. You know, get that Patreon up, get that OnlyFans up.
We're also working on building more of a structure and getting more of because we're hearing all the criticism, we're hearing everything that everybody's saying, which we appreciate. So we're trying to actually act on that and take it into the fold.
Yeah, our podcast has a 0.3 star rating on Spotify right now, so thank you all for your amazing feedback. That's not true. I've only heard positive things about our podcast, and I am so extremely thankful for everyone that's been listening.
Yes, thank you so much, everybody. Anyway, let's continue on and let's not gloat about ourselves and all the positivity we're getting because nobody wants to hear that.
Well, that's a goddamn shame because my first story of the day actually is about that. So this is one thing that I've been very excited to tell you, and it is very interesting how podcasting has already changed my mentality just because there was a time where off pod we would talk about everything, you know, because that was the only place that we could. But now there are certain stories that I'm like, okay, I could tell Josh this now and still talk about it on the podcast, but I want his genuine reaction.
No, it's actually funny that you say that because it's also changed. Like, again, I don't know if it's a me thing or whatever, but like, I just feel like the way, well, I guess it's an us thing, but I almost missed the opportunity there.
I was going to say it if you didn't. I just
Okay.
didn't want to butt in.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. But like my perception of everything and just like the way I talk to people and like everything has changed. Like the whole perception of just like how I go through life and how I like consume like media and stuff has definitely been altered as well through this experience so far.
I've kind of been feeling the same, so I'll get into that shortly. But first, I wanted to tell you this, okay?
Okay.
So the other night, I stopped at our local vape shop, right? Wanted to get some nicotine, no big deal. It's right next to a Papa John's, okay? And one of my friends, who I do know personally, we chat off air. You know, this is not just someone that I've sent a link to the podcast and never interacted with them outside of that for years. You know, but I saw them grabbing pizza at this Papa John's, right? So I knocked on their window because they were already back in the car, and she looked at me for a second. And she like gave me like a little like 1 second gesture, right?
Sure.
And she turned up the volume on her car speakers, and she was fucking listening to our podcast, like in that moment.
Dude, that's so awesome, actually. That I have the biggest smile on my face right now because of that, because that is such a cool experience. Oh my God.
It was very surreal, just because you don't like it's such a nothing thing, you know. Like it's one of my friends, right? So I'm like, oh yeah, like I appreciate you listening to my podcast, right? But it's also very surreal because this person, regardless of how close I am to them, is taking the time out of their day to listen to us talking.
Right, and that's the thing is, right, it feels like such a nothing thing because a lot of these conversations, I mean, this is like literally just how we talk and how we interact with each other, and it's just it's amazing. And once again, I guess to go back to this, even though I said I didn't want to say it, thank you guys so much for the support and all of this. I'm like, man, it's fun. I'm having a good time.
Exactly, because we would be doing this regardless, but it just means the most that we have so many people so close to us that are showing not just support, but giving us amazing feedback and taking the time out of their day to listen to us. And like, even if it's just mundane shit, right? Like going to get dinner, you're taking the time out of that car ride where you could be listening to like Deftones or some shit. You could be listening to the newest Dance Gavin Dance album.
Yes. Shut
but
up.
but you're listening to us.
Yes.
So it just feels very mind-boggling. I was
Yeah.
joking with my friends afterwards, and I was like, wow, I'm already like a micro-celebrity in my hometown. So it feels really good.
We're gonna go into Papa John's and they're like, "Hey, can we get a picture and put you on the wall? You're a local celebrity." No,
Yeah, man.
that's not gonna happen anytime soon. I don't think.
I mean, never say never. And that is my end goal. you
Yeah.
know?
Well, expect disappointment and never be disappointed. You know what I mean? So,
Absolutely.
like,
Oh, but I will still set that goal for myself,
well,
you know.
you set the goals. I definitely agree with that. But I'm also egotistical as shit. So like at the moment that something like that's gonna happen, like my head's gonna get huge and I'm gonna be like, I'm the fucking greatest. You know?
No, absolutely. I think that I have two big metrics as of right now that are like very easily obtainable where I will be satisfied with the progress that we have already made. So the biggest metrics that I run myself on, because I think of like the times that I've had podcasts on in the background and where I want to be consumed, right? So if you're like out running groceries, working out, or cleaning your house, those are all huge to me. Like if you're like, oh, I listen to you whenever I am out shopping, right? That's fucking crazy to me, right? But these are the two big ones, okay? If you put us on to fall asleep, because some people do that.
Yes.
Some
Yeah.
people exclusively listen to podcasts in order to fall asleep,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's huge. So if
Yes.
you do that, and like you know me personally, or if you don't, send me a DM, and I will I'll put you on my story, because like that's huge, right?
That's cool. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
This is the other big one though, and this is the one that I have to know. Like, I think we'll have our business email up. You can send us emails there. You can DM me personally, or you can DM our shared page. That's Universe by Cam. If you want my regular page, my personal, or Same Page Productions LLC on Instagram, and we should be Same Page LLC on Twitter, if I'm not mistaken. Send me a DM. If you put us on, and then somewhere in the middle of our podcast, you end up having sex with another human
Yes.
being.
Okay. I'm so glad that you said that, because that's what I was gonna say. Like, if you invite like somebody over and you like set the mood lighting, and you're like, oh, like I'm gonna listen to It's a Us thing. It just really gets me going. Like, oh man, that's like you have like a candle and like a couple glasses of wine. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to hear.
I know that there are plenty of times in the past where I have shown people that I've been interested in certain podcasts, right? And I've been like, hey, like, listen to this really dope podcast. It's awesome, right? We get through like an episode, maybe even half an episode, and then the magic is happening. So if we can make that magic happen, that's like insane.
Yes.
you know?
Well, I've already shown everybody my in heat meow. So. That I think that's gonna be it. That's gonna be the telltale sign. Like if they're gonna do it, it's gonna be episode 2. Like episode 2 is where it's at.
Well, the thing is, that's like a strong start. So what I would think is they start with episode 1, right? And then they just let it autoplay to episode 2, because that's how it starts, is with your in heat meow. So we go like, oh, that was a really good podcast, right? And then you're like, oh, hey, you want to like move this to the bedroom, right? But like you got your Bluetooth speaker and you're already like you're like 10 minutes in or 10 minutes away
Yes.
from the ending of episode 1, right? So you're like getting it, and then the in heat meow hits,
And
it's
they're like-
all over.
and they're like,
It's over.
Fuck, like this is the vibe. That's
Those
the
panties
vibe.
are dropping. Those boxers are dropping. Them booties are popping. That's all I ever want. Like seriously, if you like, I will give you a shout out if you're okay with disclosing that information. Like DM us, DM me. I want this to happen. That's like a huge metric.
No, I actually agree with that, because the moment you started talking about like the metrics that we're gonna like use to like be satisfied with our performance and whatever, that's immediately what I thought of, because like that's amazing. Like that's perfect.
It's funny because this is absolutely not a sexy podcast either, but if we can set the mood for you, and then even if you turn us off, right? You don't get a shout out if you turn us off, though. That's the thing. You have to be listening to us during.
No, but like it's still like if it helps you like score, like let
Absolutely.
us know, like because like again we're all about vibes here, and like we just want to have a good time,
Yeah, we need to get like a sponsor from Trojan.
or Adam and Eve.
There's an amazing condom company called PS Condoms, right?
That's news to me. I have never heard of this brand.
Yeah, they're really good. And this is like the only time that I'll mention them without them giving me money. But they are essentially vegan, hypoallergenic, all that good stuff.
Perfect.
Yeah, so they're really well made. And right now, I think they only sell online. I haven't seen them at any like brick and mortar retailers, but I would love to get a sponsorship from them just because we're all about safe sex around here.
No,
you know?
yes, be responsible. And honestly, big shout out to them because, like, I don't know, I've been in a relationship for going on 5 years now. So as for like turning on a podcast for somebody, no, I've never done that, help set the mood or anything.
5 years ago, that was not nearly as big of a thing.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. But again, being in the relationship, like I know like my wife has like allergies and she has certain things that like we can't do and like can't use, whatever. So like big shout out to the inclusion and like the I don't know, the thought of like making something like that. Because like that's one of those things that like you don't understand how inconvenient it is until you're trying to do something like not really like menial as that, but like as something that everybody like takes for granted and just does on a regular basis. When that becomes difficult or that becomes like a chore or something you have to work around, like it's tough and it's disheartening.
That's why a lot of I guess sexual health companies are becoming more hypoallergenic, vegan, even like cruelty free. Just because, yeah, cruelty free. It really got Josh for some reason.
Because I'm just imagining, like, how would they test these items or like these products on animals unless they're just like in a factory, like fucking some goats or like whatever. Like,
I think they mainly test on like rabbits.
Gross.
That's why they call it fucking like rabbits, Josh.
Honestly, hey, I mean, if they're gonna do it anyways, you might as well use it for like your advantage, right? Monetize that shit.
Yeah, they make. So here's what they do. They make rabbit-sized condoms with the same ingredients that they make the human condoms, and then they just put them on the little rabbit peepees, and they just let them go to town.
Yeah, but here's the problem with that: is it's like they obviously have different like things that affect them, right? Because it's like, for example, like goats or like sheep or whatever, it's like the whole big thing is like, oh, you shouldn't like shear a goat or shear a sheep. But the thing is, if you like cut like their skin, it actually secretes something that like helps like not cause pain or something. I can't remember the exact, like if you look it up, Wyatt, like the like how like shearing a sheep doesn't affect it even if you nick the skin. Like it's not the same like anatomy, because like
I believe they also test a lot of like skincare products, if I'm not mistaken, on pigs because they are very similar as far as us to like with their skin and all that.
That's
stuff.
exactly what I was going to say. Is like the closest to like human anatomy is like pigs and swine and all of that.
Well, I mean, I think what they mainly do. Why it's looking up the animal testing.
It just says that they benefit from shearing. It doesn't say like there's like an actual like chemical that like it secretes in like from their skin. At least, I mean, I heard that one time, so like I shouldn't say it with absolute
Yeah, I was about to say you're really getting confident there. But I think what they do essentially, and I could be totally wrong about this as well, but from what I've gathered, as far as like animal testing goes, is that they just make sure that there aren't any irritants and things like that, because irritants are pretty, I guess, universal in the mammal kingdom, and they do test on animals that are similar as far as reactions go to humans. So I feel like whenever they're just like, they might just like lube up like a pig or something, just to like they just spray Astroglide all over
exactly
it, that it doesn't like break out in hives. That's all it is.
Well, because like here's the thing with that is like, I mean, I don't know.
Oh my fucking God. I'm sorry to interrupt, Josh.
Oh,
okay, so this is very important information for anyone that does care about cruelty-free products. It literally says, first of all, Wyatt, thank you for Googling. How do they test condoms on animals?
Oh, God, I don't like where this is going.
Yeah, it's not great. So this is first page of Google, because that is the amount of research that I am willing to commit to on this show. We might do like deep dives.
Maybe.
On, like,
we'll
Patreon
see. Anyway, let's focus
future.
on this. Let's focus on this.
Doesn't matter. We'll do deep dives in the future. Maybe.
Yeah.
But Jesus. if you're sensitive to any sort of weird information, just tune out the next 30 seconds. You can mute us.
This is your trigger warning.
Essentially. So it says, condom fragments are inserted into rabbits for a vaginal irritation test. The rabbits are sacrificed, and their wombs are extracted to determine its suitability for people.
That bugs me. Like, that bugs me just the wording they use. Sacrificed?
Yeah.
Like, why is that the word they use?
That's
Like,
literally what it says. And it looks like it's
that's
a Vice
creepy.
article, if anyone wants to fact check this to make sure that we're not taking anything out of context.
Well-
but that is what the first page of Google literally gives us.
But that just literally makes me think of, like, they're like all these scientists in a circle with a rabbit in the middle, and they're like chanting,
They're in black
sacrificing.
cloaks.
Yeah, and they're like chanting and like inserting like condoms and like in the vagina. Like, but also, how much do you get paid to like insert that? You think they probably use like a syringe or something, right? Or do you think they just like stuff that shit in there?
I'm assuming they just stuff it in there, honestly.
That's
just because
gross.
there are a lot of, I guess this is more like farm work, but even now where things are more sanitary and official, like more regulated than they've ever been, a lot of people just be shoving their hands into like horses' asses and shit if they're constipated.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I've
Yeah.
seen those.
I don't know if it's for
gloves.
constipation, but it's for
That's
like
whatever.
similar things. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It's also
I'm not a-
for like giving birth and
Yeah,
whatnot.
it's to make sure that they're pregnant or not, so that they don't sell one that's pregnant, and whoever gets it gets a pregnant animal and their offspring.
I feel like there are easier ways to figure out if a horse is pregnant rather than shoving your hand up its ass. Like, we have technology.
ultrasounds are expensive, Josh. A good old glove in hand and some Astroglide TM. That's cheap as hell.
At a plucky attitude, like, we're gonna find out. We're gonna deep dive this mare, whatever they're called.
I think we should because I am absolutely for the ethical treatment of animals,
Yes.
but I am not an advocate for PETA. You know,
No,
because that's
fuck
their whole-
PETA.
That's their whole acronym. Fuck PETA.
Like,
but
so I know. Sorry to interject, but like on that note, like I know that we said that we're not going to like say organizations' names more than once. I will in every single episode say fuck PETA, and if you're a supporter, I'm so sorry. Like, do some research and like look into it, but like they are fucked up.
So, first of all, I don't think that there is a single intelligent person that will identify with PETA. Like, truly, I've never met anyone that says they're actually for like what PETA does as far as business practices go.
True.
So, actually, there is a theory. This is a fringe theory, and I might have even shown you the video on this one. Okay.
I was going to bring it up. I think we're on the same wavelength here.
We definitely are. So, Josh and I watched a video very recently that essentially suggested that PETA was actually started by people who are essentially against the ethical treatment of animals, or some way not aligned with what PETA says they're aligned with.
Right, it's
and
like
they own-
companies that like meat industry, like the big monopolies, the big companies are the ones who started PETA because it's more valuable to them to like.
They
sell
want to
stuff.
make people who are for cruelty-free products and the ethical treatment of animals look bad, essentially.
Exactly.
And that's why all of PETA's marketing is so dog shit, is because it's essentially propaganda to the counterpoint, right? Because like you said, the meat industry wants to be less regulated instead of more. So they formed PETA. And once again, this is all completely conspiratorial, but it makes a lot of sense whenever you look at PETA's like advertisements. They're so over the top that it almost seems like a parody. And the fact that anyone actually made those in like a focus group and they had to go through levels of marketing research.
Man,
it seems
you think
impossible.
you think PETA has focus groups? Nah, like okay. So here's the thing on that. Like, you're right. It definitely makes sense, and I agree. Like it I don't know. I'm a skeptic by nature, so I question everything. You know. That being said, I also think of like if this was true, how much does it make sense? Like, and so the whole idea that PETA was made to actually turn people against the ethical treatment because they're unhinged makes sense. But it also makes sense that people
not even
are
necessarily
that unhinged.
not even necessarily turn people against the ethical treatment of animals, but just make that group of people and that lobby look bad, if that makes any sense.
Or maybe even just make it like so uncomfortable to talk about on both ends that it's more like sweep it under the rug and pretend like it doesn't like matter, or like it's not happening, or like, you know, out of sight, out of mind. But I will say that, like, I mean, people love animals, you know, like I love animals, you know, like they're adorable. Like, you know, what's the saying? It's like, man, it's so amazing to live in a world where there are so many cute animals that love to be pet while being a member of a species that loves to pet things. You know, but that being said, people love animals, and I definitely think that like there are a lot of like really crazy people who don't have outlets, and I mean they feel so strongly about that like I wouldn't put it past people like genuinely doing the shit that PETA does. So like I get both sides. Yeah, I could see it both ways.
Well, this is really like a microcosm of a larger conspiracy theory, which is kind of funny, and I won't go too deep into this right now, but essentially the reason that people believe that PETA may have been started by lobbyers for like the meat industry, things like that, is because some of the things that PETA does say, like even on their website, makes sense, right? Like just the very surface level stuff makes sense. Just don't be shitty to animals, don't mistreat them, right? But then they run the ads where it shows a dude like literally sucking from an udder, and it says like, "This isn't your mom," or something like that. Or there were several, and I can't even remember some of the most egregious ones just because they're so fucking insane and there've been so many. But essentially it's saying that if you even own a pet, you know, like that's technically unethical treatment because all animals were meant to be wild. It's where you start going into the deep dives that it becomes almost more discreditable. Because if you look at what PETA believes in general, it's pretty easy to go treat animals better, right? Especially if you are in an animal industry or a human industry that uses animals as tests.
Can I also say on that note, I'm so sorry to interject. I know you're on a roll right now, but
You're fine.
Can I also just say that if like I think that's a pretty standard thing of like, hey, don't be a dick. You know what I mean? Most people don't want to be dicks, but if you're gonna go like be cruel and you're gonna go like fuck up some animals, like however that may mean, like, let's be real. If you're going to do that, you watching an ad or something, or like just because like you see somebody say, hey, you shouldn't do that, that's not going to stop you. Like if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. And it doesn't matter what other people say or think. Like, you know, it's fucked up, right? Like,
yes and no, because you forget how powerful advertising is. And that's why it's multi-billion dollars, or it's a multi-billion dollar industry, because a lot of people are influenceable by those things. But this is the main point that I wanted to make, just really quick. The microcosm of PETA being discreditable because of its own foot shooting, essentially, right? Like they have the gun aimed at their own foot with a lot of their marketing, is actually what a lot of people believe about conspiracy theories in general. And I don't know if you've heard about this one, but it's essentially saying that there are so many credible conspiracy theories that all of these stupid, quote-unquote, conspiracy theories, like think flat earth, things like that, are actually just in there to discredit the entire idea of conspiracy theories.
Well, and actually, I mean, on that point, like the whole, like, I don't know if this is technically conspiracy theory, but like the term conspiracy theory is theorized to have been developed in like the 50s or whatever by the CIA, because the whole idea of conspiracy theory is coined to make you think that, hey, it's a conspiracy theory. That means it's crazy. That means it's wild. It's wacky, whatever. But like the whole theory, like behind the term of it, is that the CIA made it to make it sound like it was batshit crazy.
So it's the exact same thing, is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Where PETA can be used as an example, because on the surface, the things that they say are very agreeable, but then as soon as you take a deep dive into their advertisements, their campaigns, you go, oh, they're fucking batshit crazy, right? So then you go, people who align themselves with all of these ideals, even if they don't identify with PETA, are automatically crazy, in my opinion, even if just by subconscious bias.
Well, see, and even like on that, because like I could see it as like being like multiple layers, right? Like, you know, or like half and half. You know, half of the stuff that they advertise and they speak about is like genuine people who are like trying to be like, you know, they actually believe in the cause, and they've got a level head and they know what's like what's right and wrong. And then the other half are like insurgents and stuff, like the actual lobbyists and the companies who like, because I mean, again, this is all theory, but like I could see how like it originally started as something that's positive and real and whatever, and then these lobbyists don't like it, so then they inject themselves into like the whole like identity of
They
PETA.
rabbit condom themselves.
They rabbit condom themselves into PETA, whereas the lobbyists are the condoms and PETA is the rabbit. Ooh. And they like can like take that and blow it out of proportion, right? Like I could see that it's like half and half, you know? It's like I could believe that, hey, it started out as something good and like something like genuine, but the people who like it was going against didn't like it and inserted themselves into the identity of PETA to make it batshit crazy and to make it like discredited, you know?
So that's exactly what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah.
Is that is a fantastic microcosm. I just love saying that word. Just in
Microcosm.
case you're wondering why I'm repeating it over and over.
Which is great.
But it really is like a perfect example of just conspiracy theories as a whole, because there are so many. First of all, it's not a conspiracy that there are a very small group of people that have a greater amount of influence over the rest of the world than all of us do. That is common knowledge, but they're not called the Illuminati. They're just Illuminati. They're not called the Illuminati. They're just called rich people.
Exactly.
So just keep that in mind. Don't ever let these crackpot conspiracy theories make you think that this is a shadow organization.
Yeah.
No, these are public figures. Okay,
Exactly.
first of
You
all.
can find any of them. Like
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. That's neither here nor there as well. Just remember that you're being governed by someone all the time
See,
and influenced all the
and
time.
on-
But what I'm saying, let me finish this thought because I want to get off this. This is definitely a little bit of a tangent, and I do have a few more things that we can cover.
Because I did want to say something on this tangent. but
You're
that's
fine. No. I want you to finish as well. I just wanted to wrap it relatively quickly because I have a few more things. I'm also kind of jittery, is what I'm realizing right now. Just because that G Fuel, once again, not a sponsor, that I drank earlier kind of made me a little twitchy. But anyway, it really does show that, or at least it is plausible that so many of the conspiracy theories that circulate online nowadays are just complete bullshit, because there are those, not even theories anymore, but things that you can just plausibly look up without going down like a QAnon rabbit trail, you know? But there are those things that you can look up and see, regardless of what your interpretation of the like classified court documents are or things like that. Regardless, there are so many things that are essentially hidden in plain sight, but because people hear the word conspiracy theory and they automatically think, oh, Elvis is still alive and he's living in Bermuda or something, people will automatically discredit anything that's like touted as a conspiracy theory. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
So that's all I had to say about it, is that it's just so easy to throw a blanket term on top of all of these things or make one specific fringe group of people look bad. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't look bad, because there are plenty of people who subscribe to all of these conspiracy theories and they are batshit insane. But at the same time, I think that a lot of people will automatically discount things just because they sound like some sort of fringe theory, even though they're not.
Well,
you know,
so-
but at the same time, it's also up to your better judgment
Well-
and how many of these things affect your day-to-day life. So don't let it eat you up too much.
See-
JFK Jr. is not still alive, everybody. And if you think he is, you can stop listening to this podcast right now, unless you want to continue and debate with us in the comments that aren't here because we are only on Spotify and there aren't comments.
And we love conversation. But here's the thing on that, and I like this is the bow that I'm going to put on it, and I think we and once I say this, we can move on. Question everything, and don't believe anything too as absolute. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm a skeptic by nature, and I don't believe anything I see ever, and I always question everything. And that doesn't mean that like I don't believe in education, whatever, but like question everything. Like Cameron said, use your better judgment and just don't believe anything too much is absolute. Anyway, we can move on.
I actually did want to kind of put a bow on it, I guess, with this final statement, because it is just interesting how many people, especially in the internet age, can just sink down these rabbit holes, and you can go from like, oh, this is a fun little interesting tidbit on YouTube, right, to literally believing that Donald Trump is going to be president for the next 50 years. Like, it's insane. And that's where it becomes dangerous. And the thing is, I am firmly of the belief that if you're a grown adult, regardless of whether I like it or not, it's kind of on you to fucking decide.
Well, here's
You
the
know?
thing. Belief is the death of reason. You know, if you believe anything, if you believe something is absolute, you will never be convinced otherwise. And that's dangerous.
Yes.
That is just, you should never believe anything so absolute as that you can't see the other side. And like, that's the thing is like, you should always like, again, like you should always be able to see it from the other side. And like, if you really do believe something as like, oh my God, this is fact, this is the truth, this is whatever, you should be able to see it from the other side and actively think and try to prove the other side's point of view if you do actually want to convince other people. Because if you try to like, yeah, and that's just
If you're
that's
only
just
seeing things from one side, then
It's-
you're never going to be able to look outside of your own echo chamber.
and that's how you're gonna look like a fucking lunatic. Anyway,
Yeah, and that's just how the brain works, really, is just with confirmation bias. I was listening to something very recently that essentially said that if we hear information that disputes what we already believe, it actually triggers a very similar part of the brain as like what receives pain. So it is in essence painful to hear things that are dissenting to our own opinions. And once again, this is neither here nor there. This is just kind of our own personal thoughts, I think, on how to subscribe to ideologies and beliefs and theories. Because at the end of the day, I always think, how much does this really affect my day-to-day life?
that's also how I look at it. Like, is this really worth this much thought? Is it really worth it? Like, is it worth this much agony? Like you said, like if you hear something that like contradicts what you believe and like it actually feels painful, I just say don't believe anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why does it matter? Like, I don't even believe I'm really alive. Like, I don't really believe like
Yeah.
anything. You know what I mean? This isn't real life. You know?
People who believe like Planet X is going to crash into Earth, right?
I haven't heard of this.
Okay, yeah, this is a good one. It's been around for a while, but essentially there are people who either just believe that it's going to happen at a vague time in the future or that it will happen like on August 27th, 2022. Wouldn't it be funny if it did? It's not the 27th yet, is it?
No, you said 27th. I thought you said 22nd.
No, 27th, because I know it's like the 23rd today
Yeah.
as of recording.
Yes.
Okay, it doesn't matter. But people, some of them have set dates. Some of them just say it's going to happen at a vague date in the future, right? Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? That's really what it comes down to,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, you know, like, but that's also a thing is like that's just a trend. You know, like if you look at human history, at least recorded human history, everybody has always thought that they were in the end time. You know what I mean? And like in reality, like, you know, we could die at any moment. You know, there are so many things that could end the world and end your life, and you know, it just. You know, it really doesn't matter. Like, and like, just don't put too much importance on like some of this bullshit because like it's gonna pass. You know what I mean?
People are just very afraid of the future.
Yeah.
And this is literally as far as we have ever been to our own perception.
Right.
Right? Like, this moment is literally as far in the quote-unquote future as we've ever been.
Well, there's only one thing that we can ever prove that is ever well, okay, prove is in a light term, but there's only one thing that we can ever like, I guess, prove that is real. I know it just. Because I made the whole comment of like I don't even believe that we're alive and this is reality. You know, like this could be whatever.
He's already backtracking, folks.
The only thing we can ever experience is the present, right? How do we know the past is real? Like, haven't you seen that whole thing about like the Holocaust never happened and like because it's like nobody because like the last person who lived through it like passed away or something. So it's like, what proof do we actually have that George Washington was a real person?
Yeah.
But like, what proof do we have that the future even exists? You know what I mean? Like, the only thing we can like truly confirm that is in our grasp and in our reality is right now, you know. And thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast because this is where we're at right now.
Thank you so much for spending the only real moment that you have with
You'll
us.
ever have is this moment.
Yeah, in conclusion, because I want to move off this shit, because essentially
I
you can follow this to its logical conclusion and it literally will take you nowhere. Because like you said, you can
yeah.
literally go, oh, if the Holocaust never happened, did George Washington really exist? Did the Queen of England really exist? Did blah,
Well,
blah,
she's
blah,
still
blah, blah?
alive.
Yeah, the first one. The first Queen of England is still alive.
How do you know this isn't the first one? It's just been the same queen.
So it's all I'm saying. I can't speak for Josh, although we are normally pretty in agreement on these things. People are fucking stupid,
don't take it too seriously.
and just don't take shit too seriously.
That's really what
Don't
it is.
believe
Don't take
in
it too
nothing.
seriously. Do your thing. Do what's gonna make
Vibe
you
out.
happy. Yeah. Do whatever's gonna make you happy.
Yeah. Okay. So Wyatt is gone, which is weird. This is our first little section, I guess, segment where Wyatt has been gone, we can really go off the rails, and we'll have no one to fact check us now. Like we could just say
nobody
anything.
to bring us back. That's okay. Yeah.
This is
Well,
where
we do. When do we not say anything? We say whatever comes to our mind.
No, this is where we start to interject with our conspiracy theories because we have no one to fact check us, so we can just say whatever
Exactly.
we want to. Okay, so I do have something for you. Okay, I this is first of all, I say okay. I'm actually going to retract that first of all.
And do second of all.
No, this is first of all, but first of all, like with a little A next to it, right? Like it's
First of all A, and then we'll go into first of all B.
Exactly.
And then C. And,
So I was listening back to our episodes because I am super narcissistic
yeah.
and I wanted to hear my own voice. But I realized how many things we say that are not necessarily catchphrases, right? But we say them so frequently.
Much. Yeah.
And
Yes.
one of mine, after listening back, is first of all, right? Like I always, whenever I'm moving on to a new point, or whenever I'm trying to really emphasize a point, even if it's not the first thing that I'm talking about, I say first of all.
It's amazing because everybody has mannerisms, right? And like stuff that we just always say, and it's also like filler, you know. We because like the whole reason why we say have mannerisms is so that our brain can catch up to what we're saying, right? It's pretty interesting because you don't realize it, right? Because like your brain does it automatically because you need to catch up, but like when you actually go back and listen to yourself, because like I mean in the first episode, that's exactly I was so freaking like cringed because I was like 100%, 100%, 100%, and oh my god, like I was like shut the fuck up, please.
See, and even listening back, I didn't think that it sounded bad as far as what either of us said. I'm actually very pleased with our mannerisms as opposed to us just saying the most boring shit over and over.
I agree.
I think that we're going to get better at it regardless.
Sure.
This is just a way for us to improve, but
Yeah.
it's very fascinating
Well,
because
yeah.
this is something of a learning experience for us.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is like we're still very like we're in our infancy of our like content creation and the image that we're building.
Okay. So I was looking at the time. I just wanted to make sure that we're good because I'm officially on production duty right now, and I'm horrified that we're going to go overtime. So Josh, aside from our mannerisms, I noticed something else very funny about our podcast.
Oh my god, what?
This may be one of the best discoveries that I've made very recently.
Okay.
Uh,
I'm excited.
It's so fucking stupid. So I did a decent amount of the setup as far as linking all of our feeds to Spotify,
Yeah.
all of that good stuff,
Yes,
right?
thank
Just
you.
making sure that the analytics were up. And in doing that and in making sure that all of our links were active and up to date on our link tree, I realized that our URL, whenever you put our podcast name all together, could be its anus thing.
Which you it's anus thing. But I found that way funnier than because I was like where are you going with this, Cameron? And I'm so glad that's where you ended up.
Yeah, no.
'Cause that's-
So if you
that's
click on like the
wonderful.
URL to Spotify, it should bring up like Spotify/podcast/its anus thing, which is amazing because I didn't think about that until I actually had to like copy and paste a link for something, and I about lost it.
Oh
and
my goodness.
I wanted to text you, but that
That's-
was one thing that I was like, I have to save it to
That's-
get his reaction.
That is beautiful. I think that is beautiful, and I love that.
There's another fantastic podcast that I listen to called the Jesselnick and Rosenthal Vanity Project, right?
Yeah.
Anthony Jesselnick and
Yeah.
oh my god, I always feel bad because I forget Rosenthal's first name just because he's a sports commentator. I don't do sports. I
No,
listen
me
to his
neither.
podcast. Shout out y'all. But they abbreviate it as JRVP, right? And their joke is that it's junior vice president whenever you have to whenever you like type in a promo code for them,
That
right?
is funny.
So I would love if we got like the promo code anus.
Or it's anus.
Yeah, it's
It's
anus.
anus.
So that's what
I
I'm saying.
love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Or anus thing.
yeah, anus thing. Dude, I love that.
So
I love that.
Yeah, at first I was like, God damn it, we chose something that has the word anus in it. But then I was like, no, this is perfect.
That is exactly perfect.
This is exactly what I want out
That's
of
what I'm
my
saying.
podcast that I plan on doing for
Exactly.
like an indefinite period of time.
I 100. And I will 100% agree with that. Like, I love that. I'm so happy with that.
I will see whenever we're talking to not just sponsors, but just anyone that wants to partner with us in the future, if they will let us use like hyperlink anus or something like that,
Sure.
or a promo code anus whenever they are linking to our, like on our things.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't see why not, right? You know, like
anus isn't like not safe for work. That's a scientific term.
it is, exactly, you know. And this
Yeah.
is an educational podcast, you know. We established that early.
Absolutely. That was my big revelation though of this
I'm
week.
very happy with that. Thank you for sharing that with me, because like I can't imagine anything else that I would prefer like over that. Like, that is wonderful.
I do just wonder how long it'll take for someone who is unfamiliar with us to click our podcast link, and then if they just see the link before they see like our page on Spotify, if they will think it's anus thing.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. But
You know, whenever
like,
you're just reading it fast,
yeah.
I think that it will absolutely happen. It's just a matter of when, not if.
Well, now, but the thing is, now I don't think I'll ever see anything else when looking at it. Like, that's all I'm gonna see. It's anus thing.
It's anus thing.
It's anus thing.
Yeah, no, it made me lose my goddamn mind.
I
though.
love that.
Like, it took all of my restraint to not text you about it.
I'm really glad that you didn't, because like yeah, that was a great like revelation.
I also loved how on the edge of your seat you were, because I built that one up appropriately.
Very appropriately. Like, I thought the payoff for that was perfect.
I think that actually does tie in perfectly to something that we can wrap on too, because we are getting kind of close to time.
Sweet.
So first of all,
First of all,
yeah, I think I'm just going to call Cameron's segment, whatever my segment may be, whether it's on the podcast or wherever else we end up doing things. I'll just be like, my exclusive segment, Cameron's part, will be just called First of All. Even if it's not First of All. Like, it'll be in the middle of the podcast and it's still called First of All.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. So one of the big things that some of our very close friends have told us is, as far as critiques go, is that we were interjecting on each other and we weren't letting each other finish stories, right? And honestly, I've heard good and bad things about this, because some
Yeah.
people like the frazzledness of it, the way that we jump from one thing to another.
Yeah.
And we did mostly cover everything that we wanted to in our first recording block, and we always circled back, or at least most of the time circled back to the subjects that we needed to really hit on. It just took us a while to get there.
Yeah.
So I think we do need to work on like adequate payoffs, right? Because I do want to build something up and then automatically, boom, you're there. Climax.
I still think it's hilarious to build something up and it's just like the most mundane thing. I love that.
Like my irreversible shit where you wouldn't let me finish about a movie, and it took me like the first 20 minutes of the podcast.
Which
to
should have
just-
only been like a 3-minute conversation.
I would say I could have
I
wrapped
love
that in under a minute
I
if I just
love
was
that.
able to get out all of the words.
It's an us thing, man. Let's just let it flow, you know.
And
Like,
I love it.
We'll
right?
we'll,
That's
we'll
the thing.
cater. We'll cater and try to make it easily like consumable. But
That's really the big thing, is that if we want people to fuck to this podcast, we have to really at least not make them have to concentrate on us
nah, I
over
think
a boner.
I,
Like, that's the thing, is that most dudes only have enough blood flow to deal with the brain or the
exactly.
penis.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, so
if you
the
think
thing
about
is-
something too hard, you just lose it. Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. You cannot, in the heat of the moment, make people lose their boners every single time, or lady boners, every single time that we start talking about a tangent, right? Like, we want it to be easy listening.
easy listening.
Yeah,
Totally.
At least most of the time. I think that
Totally.
there will be times where we're absolutely cracked out and we may not be able to finish a sentence without the other one interjecting. But I think it's also just kind of like, I would say riding a bike, but I think a better analogy is like learning to fly. We have to get better at it as we go. Josh looks so confused. I didn't know where I was going whenever I opened my mouth, so I
Yeah,
just kind
saw
of went with it.
I appreciate that. We're still getting our sea legs. You know, that's what I would say. It's like learning to sail, and we're getting our sea legs underneath us.
I would say so. We're still a little nauseous,
Nauseous.
seasick.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
we're
I got it.
trying not to get scurvy at this point. So if we can like
The
survive,
bends.
if we can survive the initial like sailing off port, then we'll be golden. Right?
How many more sailing analogies can we make out of this?
I just certainly hope we don't hit an iceberg.
All I can think of is sperm whale and swallows. Like that's all I can think
Boy.
of.
But
That's
yeah,
it.
no, that was really the biggest thing that I kind of took from us listening, as well as the feedback that we've gotten, is that I want to figure out ways for my brain to catch up with my mouth without having to regurgitate words the entire time. And I want to make sure that we are allowing each other to finish, right? Because this has to be a mutually pleasurable podcast.
That's what I was gonna say. I like it when we both finish.
Exactly. We both have to finish. Otherwise, what's the point, really? Like
Exactly.
this is one-sided.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And then I just feel selfish, you know,
Exactly. And then the other person just goes to bed feeling gross, like they don't even
or
shower.
unsatisfied.
Yeah, they don't even shower off. They're just
Like,
upset.
unsatisfied.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we definitely want to make sure that we both get there at the end. Even
Yeah.
if it takes a while, I'm okay with that.
Me too.
Because I'm about putting in the effort
And-
too,
And as long as we're concise. But yeah, no, I like that.
yeah, me too.
Cool.
I would say Wyatt cut it.
That's what I was gonna say. Is Wyatt?
Yeah. But he's not here. So I'm going to make sure we press the right button now-ish.